It says preparing, now streaming live on Facebook. The wonderful world of Zoom and Facebook. Good afternoon, humble people. Preparing, now live on Facebook. The wonderful world of Zoom and Facebook. There we go. They gotta fix that. They've changed the whole mechanism of syncing into Zoom, and now it takes you right into your live, which isn't good because you feedback and a whole bunch of other things. But give me a sec here, and we will be good. Sorry, everybody. Okay, here we go. Just want to make sure it's showing up. It says we're live now. I can see us. Good. Thank you, everybody. It is Thursday, April 22nd of 2021. We're sitting here kind of on the edge of some new reality that makes absolutely no sense and is driving us nuts. Anya and I were just discussing that a little bit. We're going to do a general coverage of a ton of different topics that have been present for us. Would you like to start us off there, Anya?
Sure, thank you. Before we got on here, we were just quickly catching up. And Paul, I'm excited to hear what you were going through and the energies that were showing up for you, because that sounded intense. And while you mentioned that, like, I think I don't know, I've just been shining so brightly with my light and everything. So it's been cool, but I did confront the darkness a little yesterday when I was getting my nails done. There was like this man, it's all women except for this one man at a salon that also does your nails. And I got him, and he spilled acetone on me in my bag. And he burnt my nail with one of his tools, and then it was just like a knee-jerk reaction, and then it was just started off on a very shaky note, and like by the time I was done with this god-awful experience, like I felt his energy that I was carrying into me, and I was just like not feeling my energy at all, and I was just like, oh, this is a problem, like what are we gonna do? Like, so it was kind of messing with me in that way. I didn't really enjoy the experience at all. And he was just like rushing me, and like I was telling him what I wanted, and he was like trying to correct me, and I was like, man, like,
who's paying here? Yep.
So I guess that was like a little run-in that I had. Nothing major at all compared to you by any means.
Well.
But just, really just trying to stay in the flow of the present moment, and seeing those other old programs come in, and then just be like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, how could we help you evacuate today? And so that's my story.
Very crazy. Well, it aligns with what I've been seeing, and hearing a lot of people talk about it too, but just crazy things are starting to happen. People are going like freaking sideways on light workers, and it's not clear why. And they're projecting, and it's just out of nowhere. It's just like absolutely insanely just popping. And in my experience, so I was listening to Todd Medina and Jason Estes. They were doing an interview on Sology. Can't remember, that was Tuesday, I guess. So 2 days ago. And a lot of the stuff Jason Estes sounds right, that he says sounds right, but there's some stuff that doesn't always resonate with me. But so I take everything with a grain of salt. But he got on there and he started saying that the mechanisms that the darkness has been using to feed off us and control us are actually burning them now. The light is feeding back, and it's getting so intense that it is actually causing them fear and terror and anger, and they are just literally, they can't stop what they've created, and it's literally feeding back on them. So the light is now flooding in. The darkness is dissipating because that's all you can do in the light. You shine on shadow and all of a sudden the light goes all the way through and there's no shadow left until the light goes away again. So what I'm seeing, and then I translated this into, so that guy had a lower vibrational energy, and any energies that were around that were still in control of him were coming through him to fuck you up in some way, shape, or form. So spilling acetone on your purse, trying to make you angry. Yesterday, I've been seeing it all over the place. I've been seeing people I've been talking to on Facebook all of a sudden having these insanely irrational. I was talking to a lady and I sent her a copy of my business card because she sends me these random memes, and all of a sudden she's like, "You're in my heart space. Well, I did not give you permission. What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "You send me memes all the time." And I said, "This is no different than a meme." And it's like, "Well, I do not appreciate it." And I'm like, "I will not participate in whatever shit is going on because I did nothing wrong to you, and I'm not going to feel like I did anything wrong. And from this point onwards, they're not going to talk for another 3 days because I will not accept whatever's coming through you." And that threw her for the loop. And then she says, "Oh yeah, there's been a lot of darkness coming through me. Maybe you're right." And I'm like, okay. So I set a boundary, and the energy got a boundary in that moment in time, darkness as well. And then yesterday I'm barbecuing my pork chops and I'm kind of working on the computer in between, and the whole grill started on fire and it melted some of the siding on the house. And I'm like, this is not my energy, because I rent my place, and I'm just like very, very careful about these kind of things. And there was hardly any fat on the pork chops. They're nice thick with a little on the edge, but the whole grill was like freaking flaming inferno. So I'm like throwing water on it, thinking my house is going to burn down. And I'm like, this is not my energy. What the fuck? What am I learning from this? And then I stood and I said, whoever is doing this, this isn't going to happen. I said, you're going to repair the siding and you're going to get this fixed because I did not choose this. It is not something I even foresaw or could prepare for. But no, the darkness was trying to piss me off. So I feel bad, like I've hurt the house energy or something. I didn't do that. And then it's just crazy shit everywhere I'm looking. What was it this morning? Yeah, I was talking with somebody last night and working them through a process, but his microphone couldn't even work. So I couldn't hear half the words that he was saying, and it was pissing me off. So it was like, you'd be seeing him and he'd go, blah, 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 and then it would be, and then blah, 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 blah. And you're like trying to work a person through a process, and you can't even work them through a process because you're not getting the full energy of what's going on. So tech is fucking up all over the place. Phones are screwing up. Yeah, computers, my microphone, brand new microphone doesn't even work. It's just here for a prop at the moment because it goes all after 80 minutes. And brand new grill. My grill, just weird stuff. And I'm just like sitting calm. None of that stuff would have just sat with me, like the messing up the siding on the house or whatever. What are you going to do? I don't know how much money that is to repair or whatever, but it's like, that was not my energy that created that. What the fuck is going on? Something's trying to get me to stop. So this morning I popped. I was sitting here and I did this angel meditation and I felt so good. And instantly I called all the darkness that was in my presence and ever interacted with me in all my lifetimes. I called them into presence. And we had a little discussion and I thanked them. I blessed them. And I said, you have a choice. You can either sit and struggle in pain of this light burning you or whatever, or I will transmute you to pure light and you can go on and have another purpose in love and unconditional love. And I gave him a 5-minute ultimatum. You got a choice. You either stay here and we'll complete this process and you get all the blessings and you'll be love and then you can have a new purpose, or you can leave the planet. And you got to sign a piece of paper that says you leave the planet. And a few dozen left the planet because they wanted to be evil or dark continually. The rest got transmuted. And I can channel these universal voices. Like, I don't know if you ever heard the monks where they're like, and all these sounds were coming out and everything was transmuting and the light was shining out. And it was so beautiful. And then they came and they healed me for all the stuff that they connected to me with. And because we have no idea how many devices and things that have been put into our life. Even our parents have darkness in them, or sometimes took on demons or other things to be able to hold you back, to temper you, to find your path and find what real love is. And that gentleman I'm talking with or working through yesterday, then Mike was all screwed. Yeah, his dad was like latched into him like this. And a lot of times we chose parents that had darkness in them. So if you're going crazy and you're having a hell of a time with your parents and your family, ask your higher self, ask is, do they have darkness in them? And you'll find out that they do. And maybe you have to step away. You can't fix them. You can't help them. You can't remove those from them. You can ask and they'll probably say no, but it gives you a freedom all of a sudden. It's like, okay, I chose this to hold me back and keep me small until this point in time when I could make a choice. And you're going to do it with unconditional love. Go ahead. You're going to say something.
I was just gonna say that's so on point for what's going on. I'm helping my mom clear her darkness. She has a lot of darkness and so many outdated programs. Oh my God, I could just see them. But I've just been helping her because I really think that, you can't go on that long and like not do something about it. So like I've been giving her, like, I did breath work with her this morning. I got to connect with her and I'm going to help her find a therapist. She agreed. So just making headway with that.
Well, just comprehend the fact that they are the result of their lineage, and whatever
Yes.
demons or darkness got into them before from their parents,
Yes.
grandparents, etc., is all fed into her. And if it didn't end up in you, which you've either worked through it or not, she's the last of the cleanup of the whole entire lineage. She's the representative. It's in her epigenetics. It's in all this stuff, and you're shining light into it. And they may be screaming and tearing at you and angry and frustrated, or enough has been shifted and your light is shone out that the darker ones are gone, and now you're getting through.
Yeah. Like I see the energy, that the dark energy that feeds on her, like just like it's, I don't know, like some tasty cornbread or something. But even like I can also see a change starting to happen with the way my parents even interact, because she's still emotionally immature, and so she takes that out on my dad. And so I've just even stepped in and started course correcting, and I was like, Mom, say this in a calm way that you didn't know, instead of like, I didn't know, like getting all crazy. And so she's been slowly starting to do that. I mean, and my dad will like just become avoidant or whatever, but it is what it is. But just slowly.
In those ways, men that can be the most masculine men are the most abused of any, when a wife projects that kind of stuff. And I got to take it because we're in a marriage and I'm the husband and I got to whatever. And people don't see that as husband abuse or man abuse, but it is. It
It's
happens.
emotional abuse.
It is. And we have nobody to talk to with it, because we won't talk to our buddies. My wife says this or she hurts me or whatever. No, we carry it quietly in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I would love for people to start being aware of that. It's all concentrated on women and the abuses that have happened to them, but those exact same abuses do happen to men. There's just no public recognition of it.
1000%.
I would state that even a lot of dating relationships where men are just trying to get in, they're abused as well, emotionally and mentally, because they're not told where they stand. They're, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, and they're sitting on this roller coaster, and they're trapped because they're trying to find touch and they're trying to find intimacy and sexuality. And by a woman controlling those things, she puts the man in a place where he doesn't know what's going on. And eventually I see why it's possible that men will snap and it'll be like a rape or an abuse or whatever. But it's going to be hard for me to say it. I'm going to say it out loud, but women sometimes create those things. And I don't want to blame anyone, but I'd really, really like some women to acknowledge that it's not all bad men. It's part of the behaviors that we've been taught, and we're just playing them out in a way that creates stuff. And you can be the strongest man in the world and take that for a while, but eventually you pop. And it's not good or it's not fair, but there's responsibility on both sides. So
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, that jumps into the point we were briefly discussing about this collapse that is happening with the male energy and the female energy, and just like the toxicity has grown so much, especially I think with the help of Instagram and OnlyFans, where you have these women who are doing these transactions. And by all means, yo, that's cool. Like, I would do that shit too, probably, if I was on that path. But it's just, I think it's gotten to the point where their ego has just taken completely over, and like it's allowed them, enabled them to just treat men like garbage and to just dispose of them, get their transaction, you know, do their thing, shake their thing, and then just like, all right, next one. So it's just like been this like disposable thing.
my Patreon page where I'm way more sexual and I'm touching myself and all this kind of stuff, and you're paying for it, and you don't expect yourself to be seen as an over sexualized person, or you expect people not on the street to now respect you when you're standing in these energies. And the women would hate it, but that to me is prostituting yourself. You're giving up all these parts of your body and this stuff, still wanting to be respected in that way, but you're taking money so that people can see all your parts or whatever. And it's confused as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying something's really confused. And the expectation of men is that they're buying something or earning something or going in deeper, and they think you're your girlfriend, either your girlfriend and all this kind of shit. And then you go sideways and say, oh, well, I'm not. And why the hell are you thinking me that way? You can't set a double standard and accept tens of thousands of dollars for people to look at your genitals and breasts and stuff bare and not think some level of intimacy was being created.
Yo, you bring up such a good point right now, because there is, but we just become so desensitized, especially through a computer screen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't think about, you just blew my
You're
mind.
literally almost having sex with them. Do you think those guys on the other end aren't sitting there touching themselves
Erect,
and
yeah.
having sex?
Yeah.
And that is what they paid for. And now you're not okay with that? And it's like over sexualized? No, those guys were going on the energy that you were portraying, and you're spraying your sexual energy out there. What do you expect? People don't hold back when you're raw and pure and your whole body is out there, pure sexual energy and attraction. But the minute somebody's talking to you sexually or sees you in public, it's like, no, it's not permitted. Well, you can't be both. And that's what they expect. That's the hard part that men have. Women dress very sexually. There's like plunging tops and half showing their nipples, or skirts that show right up their ass or whatever. Do you think we just see that as beauty? No, we see that as those sexual parts. They've been hidden for so long in long dresses and other stuff. And the more and more that you're showing of them, or bikinis or thongs that go up your ass or whatever, I'm not saying it's not okay. I'm just saying that we're seeing more and more, and we're getting an intimacy with your body and all the parts of it. And where's the line? You expect us to, like, okay, I can see the lips of your genitals showing through your pants or your bikini bottom or whatever, and it's making me aroused. What, am I wrong? No. I can be aroused all day long, and the more you show me of it, the more you're hinting that maybe you want that. Is the way the old way used to work.
Yeah.
That's how sexuality was. I'm alluring and I'm trying to be. And what a lot of women won't admit is it's an energy steal. When you are hypersexual like that and showing off your body, they love the attention. But the minute it gets too personal, or because where are the boundaries in that? There are no verbal boundaries. There are no other boundaries when 98% of your body is being shown. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I got to stop you at sexuality. It's like, nobody ever taught us. What are we supposed to do at that point? And I'm giving energy and I'm not getting anything back. And an expectation is being created because no words were actually used to say what's really going on here. And why am I bad? Because now I think we've got somewhere or whatever. I have to have that discussion, and that's what we're teaching people. But in that moment, they might think that, oh, we're boyfriend, girlfriend at that point because they've seen so much of your body. Where's the line drawn? Where's the communication of where your boundary or your edge is? Because I'll cross that in a second accidentally because I'm longing for sexuality and I'm seeing 98% of your body. So am I bad for that? It's like I reach out or I'll touch or I'll whatever, and it'll be like scream rape where you violated my boundaries, but none were verbally set. So how am I completely responsible for that?
Not I really like that how you mentioned like that there's the siphoning of energy happening because that's so true. It's like there's sirens.
Yeah. They feel really good and high from all these men's sexual attraction. And it's just like, I'm hot, I'm special, I'm amazing. It is a
Yes.
siren when she starts drawing boundaries after having none or whatever. But there's siphoning. It's an addiction.
Yes.
It just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yes. So it like kind of makes me think how many women have become so out of touch with reality because now if they need a pick me up they have a phone, we'll give them thousands, multiple thousands of likes, messages, cash, whatever to perpetuate, oh, okay, this is a reminder of who I am. This instead of with an inside, it's an outside external validation coming at them 24/7, 365. And I just think it's just, I don't know, like there's a lot of hot women right now in the world. I don't know if that's just makeup, but there are so many hot women, like, and I don't know if it's always been like that or if we're just like more connected these days. But I just think about that, and I think about like the psychology of just for men, like they can just access all these options, all of these fantasies, all of these desires of hot women, scroll scroll scroll, bomb bomb bomb. But I'm just like, what is that actually doing?
But how many of them, when you look in their eyes, have they sold their soul or they're dead inside?
That right there.
Boob job and they're half naked, and it was like I'm high on all these energies and these people projecting at me, and they lost themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all hot women have gone that path or whatever. Honestly, I think as you move through your awakening and enlightenment, you go back to a body shape that's more comfortable with you, and you may have been larger or something as you move through your emotion, but you come back to that inner hotness. And a woman that's curvy or thin or whatever can have that hotness, and it radiates from their eyes, it radiates from their being, which is different than what we see in those poster models.
Yeah, it's so true though. It's like you have this beautiful fantasy girl right in front of you, but there's nothing behind or inside.
Or you get married and they're sexy and maybe you gain a few pounds or whatever, and then they can't be with you because they can't be seen as sexy if your partner has a little weight or whatever. And it's all around this superficialness. And there was really no depth. There was no deep conversations. There was no understanding what really was important. So we're taught in society, especially young girls, that sexiness and hotness and big boobs and all this kind of stuff are what make you attractive and accepted in this world.
Yep.
Now, where that all comes from and how that's all created is tricky. Like Disney stuff does a lot of that. It's kind of scary when you start seeing it underneath the Hannah Montanas and uh,
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Swifts and all these that went through that system, and they're hypersexualized by the end of it, and you're just like, what happened, right? These beautiful souls, you can see them from the start of their career to their like past teens, and now all of a sudden they're like Lady Gaga and
Lindsay
what?
Lohan.
There you go. Yeah, and they're hypersexualized, or they're in a demon outfit, or angel, whatever, and you're just like, where did that come from? So
Yeah, it's like there is this such power with sexuality, but it's just never been publicly revealed or spoken in its truest form. But there is power to it. Like I thought about this the other day. It's like It's the reason why a lot of people go to work, so they could have money, so they can buy a car, so they can have a higher mate, a higher value mate.
Yep. Yep. Have a
Like,
house, all those things. Yep.
exactly, yeah. So it's just our drive. Our driving force is to procreate, but to procreate with the most attractive partner. But sex is the bottom line of it. And so I'm like, well, why don't we just tap into our sexual energy instead of doing all this extra shit?
I will conjecture, and it will make a few people mad. I can't give a flying fuck. That's why I teach about sexuality. We are motivated as human beings around procreation of the species, sexuality, pleasure, bliss,
Mm-hmm.
the shape of another person. Men are programmed like, okay, if she's curvy and she's got wider hips or whatever, she can procreate the species. So it's going to create this desire to have sex with them. Did you know that the man's penis, the way the head is shaped, is just like a pump? It will literally siphon out the other man's semen and to replace it with his, because it's designed to do that, to make his the most dominant. I'm the last one, so the his literal shape will pull out. It's like a pump. If you've ever looked as an engineer in a pump, it's got a little seal thing and it's got a little edge. And yeah, when you push it in, it'll pull back out just the way it was designed. So the whole piece of the man's body is designed around being the last one of the last seed in that woman.
Wow.
Genetics to continue. Most people wouldn't have ever believed that. So we're designed to have this sexuality. And how much sexuality do people really have in their life? Next to zero right now.
Especially right now, like it is all done through a computer screen or phone screen, whatever.
Yeah, they're self-pleasuring themselves or doing it online or watching porn a lot because they can't even find a partner they can connect with.
Yeah, like I think we're, as a society, the most alone we've ever felt, but we have the most connection, like we could send a text message to someone across the world. So we're the most connected, but we feel the most alone right now.
Well, then COVID and lockdowns and all
Right,
that kind of
right.
do it. And it's like sexually transmitted diseases will do it next. I So going back to that fact that we said that we're all motivated around sexuality, and really dig down, because some people are going to say, oh, well, I've got kids now and I'm a mother and I'm not, or whatever. And yeah, because their body's not feeling sexual and they are overweight and they're breastfeeding and their breasts are hanging down. They still want that intimacy and that connection and that touch. They may get something by breastfeeding their child, which is a different kind, but it's not the same as the masculine energy and entering and penetration
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all these things. But we constantly project onto our mates and we don't talk about what's going on in our world. And then we end up building up all this animosity to each other, and it ends up in cutting off sex, which you need to pump your system energetically on a regular basis to keep it clear. And an orgasm, in my understanding and what I teach, is literally like running a pipe cleaner up and down your central channel. When you're having that orgasm and it's flowing out the top of your head, you're literally cleaning out all the detritus inside your central channel. At the same time, your brain's putting out all these feel-good hormones like these oxytocins and I can't even remember all the names, but there's all these beautiful hormones that come out of our brain. The doctors, oh, take an antidepressant and this is going to do it. No, your brain will give it out in non-addicting form exactly the way you need it. So if I can teach you, or we talk about giving yourself pleasure first before you find yourself enough that you're going to share sexuality with another person, you can start moving that pipe cleaner and start dealing with it in yourself. Most people aren't living in their body. They're ungrounded. They're like in fight or flight, the cortisol and I got to pay the bills and the kids got to get fed and I'm rushing off to soccer practice leaves us so stacked with cortisol we don't even feel in our body. So when our partner touches us or we have sex, it's just this friction based kind of like, hurry up and get done. I just want to good. And the man hasn't understood a lot of how to arouse a woman and how to bring her close or whatever, because that's not taught. And then the women don't always talk about it because that's not normal or typical. And then we end up with this situation and the man's just getting frustrated trying to get an orgasm to happen. And everybody's like, let's have mutual orgasms and it's all good. But without talking and without that intimacy and that foreplay and that build up, a woman isn't even aroused sometimes until 40 minutes in. And if most men knew that, it would be a completely different experience. So, but if we can get back to our sexuality and our play and our fun with it and feel met by another person and that there's a balance of giving and receiving, everybody would want to have sexuality on a regular basis. And there would be no shame in it. You don't have to have a partner specifically. People are doing it anyways and feeling a bunch of shame and guilt. If you feel aroused towards a person, why wouldn't you explore that? It's different maybe if you're married or in a committed relationship, but otherwise, do you have to date with the plan to lead to getting married and having kids? Or do you explore that and see how sexually compatible am I with this person? Lots of people are doing it. They call it like common law relationships or whatever. So do it without the shame now. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going with this pull and I'm not feeling shamed and I'm not thinking about my friends are going to think if I go and have some pleasure right now with another person. And it's not about 15 different partners all week long. It's about finding one, maybe two that just really feel good to you and being really honest with the people about what's going on and making sure that they're okay with all this stuff because you hide it. The energy is going to be all fucked up anyways. So like, this is what I want. I want to explore. I'm in this exploring phase of my life where I want to find a person, but I don't want to have a commitment where we got to get married, but I really need some sex in my life right now. You have to go pay a person to do that, and then it's questionable of who they've been with or whatever. No, find somebody that's really craving it and needing it and just make a deal. And it doesn't have to be friends with benefits or any of those games names. It's just like pleasure for healing. Getting to this point where it doesn't have to lead somewhere and I can be emotional and I can explore.
Sorry,
Cool.
thumped my head.
But the energy is all around, like you said, seeing women as beautiful. But those, I don't know, my son can't stand it because they just tease. It's like, I love you, I hate you. It's all that milking of the energy, like you said, or dressing sexual. Or my son was saying, this girlfriend that was theirs asked his buddy to come on a trip, and it was just going to be her and three other guys because she wanted the two other guys to invite his two other boyfriends. And it's like, that's kind of a strange thing. Like, what's going on there? But she's really playful and she's teasy and wears the plunging necklines or whatever. And he's like, man, you can't go. He said, she's just going to use you. And he went anyways because he was hoping and doesn't have a lot of sexuality in his life. And he's like, he gets home and he's like, that was a waste of time.
Yeah.
She hardly even talked to me and she was playing this game and he was getting angst. And when you're aroused with a woman, I would like, maybe I'll get in trouble and I don't believe you don't agree with it, but I would like women to be really responsible with their energy and start to understand that sometimes those men are there for other reasons because they have an attraction or they want in your pants or whatever. And you have to honor that that might be a motivation. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe he's not having any sex with anyone, but he's a really good friend with you and he feels really intimate in depth. What if he has that sexual feeling? Maybe you have a sexual feeling once in a while and that keeps pulling him in, but you keep denying it and he just continues to hope. And I've been there lots, and it's the most painful thing that you can go through because there's no mechanism to say I sexually desire you without destroying the friendship. But if we could build something where all that energy was brought out and it was like part of the friendship, it's like, okay, yeah, I do. You're hot as hell in those yoga pants, and I've masturbated to your image a few times or whatever. It's happening, and I bet you the woman can feel it. But that's his weakness when he doesn't have any sexuality in his life, and those people that are nearby are dressing sexually. He picks up on it. And is that his mistake? Is that him wrong? It was never discussed. So is there anybody to blame?
No, but I do think you bring up another excellent point of just men today, where I don't think that as a society we are as sexual as we used to be, and you can't blame the guy, but for some reason, with all of the movements going on, Me Too, whatever, Like I think it's really messed with a guy's head and his inner masculinity, and I think it has depreciated something in a man, like where, and like with the also with like I think the gender reversal identity thing going on as well. I just really think it's like messing with guys, like, and their
I
true.
call that emasculation.
Yes, that's the word.
The woman takes the power because she's now partly in her masculine, and she's using it for some purpose that she's not being truthful about sometimes. Maybe she's not even aware of it, and I'll give them the huge benefits of the doubt. But who do you want to be the man? How can you say that where are all the good men gone when the women are 51 or 60% masculine because they got to be a single mother and they got their own job and they're racing around to do all this kind of stuff? You got to give us our role back.
Yes.
Or I can't be those things. And it has to be with your permission and clear communication, because I'm trying to find my fit, and I find that I got to be 60% feminine to match up with that 60% masculine guy, because I can't be that 40% masculine, or else you're just like dick fighting.
Yeah, it really seems like, especially in today's society, that the roles have completely shifted. Like a woman is now, she's probably more commonly seen in university and like job and having a higher paid salary, which is great. That's such an advancement for women. But if you could apply your inner masculine to the workplace to achieve goals, but that shit needs to stay in the workplace, because when you have that interaction with a man where a man has these wirings, okay, this is how I need to provide, I am a provider, but when the woman switches into that role, she doesn't know how to turn it off, like it just makes a man feel, I'm just speaking, like, what do I do? You don't need me, you have everything.
Absolutely. And we're stuck with need for sexuality and need for intimacy and all this kind of stuff. Women can get it from women, but men can't, in their feminine, can't get it from other men very readily because those groups don't exist. So here's this may rock things a little bit. Women talk about the toxic masculine all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of the women I see that are so deeply in their masculine are literally the toxic masculine. They don't have integrity of their word, because women see integrity in a completely different way. And you can't be a fully man and say, I'm showing up for you and I'm doing all these things, and then frickin' change your mind every 15 minutes, because that's what I'm supposed to be, because I'm in the feminine role at this moment. And it's not bad. It's just when you've inverted the role so deeply, you got to take on all the parts of that role, or else you're in your darkness, and it's fucked. And we have no way. I can't hold a woman in integrity of her word and saying, okay, I'm feeling sexual towards you, or whatever, because the next day it's like, oh, I'm not, or whatever, because they've shifted, or they've explained it away with the feminine side, but they're not holding to the masculine side. The masculine is supposed to be the rock. The masculine is supposed to be the one that you can emote to. Well, if I came and was emotional towards a woman that was in her masculine, she would call me a crybaby. And where the fuck is wrong with him? You invited that. You invited that by being 60% masculine, because I have no other choice to interrelate with you. Otherwise, show me. Give me an invitation. Come up to me and say, I'm attracted, and I'd like you to be masculine towards me. I'm willing to surrender a little bit, and let's try this. But if I approach that way, I would get slapped down sideways because I'm being too direct, and it's assaulting their man. So how do I even approach? It's really, really hard from this side of the fence, because the woman's got this all figured out as the man, but she's so angry and so lost and so unmet by the masculine, because she's trying to be her own masculine.
Yes.
She's letting herself down. Give me a chance and I will walk up. If a woman made an invitation and say, I want a masculine experience from you, and I'm willing to explore surrender, or whatever, that is the most amazing invitation that I can have, because it's like, okay, you're masculine stepping down. I will step into dominance. I will step into holding you. I will step into being your rock that will help you be in surrender and be that safe place. But I can't legally do that the way society's programmed it right now. I can be a biker and beat her around and be angry to her all the time and not give a shit what she thinks, which gives her a little bit of that. But then she throws him away afterwards because, yeah, he's an abuser and he really doesn't give a shit about you. But how do I step into that safely without your permission? And how are you going to feel if I come up to you and say, I really want to be a man around you? Would that be okay? And it'd be like, what kind of soft shit are you for asking that? I just want you to be it, and then I'll assess if it's okay. That's where we're hurting. We don't know how to engage. And
Yeah.
the best advice I can give to a woman is ask a man. And it may sound a little weird the first time, and the first couple times, you got to have a lot of consent in the process, because I don't feel safe around a woman that can call rape on me the first time I touch their breast or whatever. But they want me to read their energy so that they can feel in that flow. But if it doesn't feel okay, or I have my own wound, or I have this holdback, which feels like some kind of shame because I'm trying to honor the woman, we both lose. Because I couldn't move forward. I didn't feel safe enough to move forward. The woman is potentially in her trauma, or I don't know what the thing is, or some stuff with dad or past lovers or whatever, and I'll catch that in my forehead because there's not enough trust yet. When do you get trust enough that you're going to let somebody explore your body a little bit? Or when do you get trust when you're going to surrender a little bit and just see? But when you become your divine self, which you are becoming, you have the ability to say yes or no, set boundaries in the moment and other things, and you'll feel safe doing that. But a woman that hasn't built those yet, or is still sitting in their wound, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing because everybody's got it. I can't be safe until they permit me in. And how much do you permit a person in? It's this game all the way through, all the way up to you're married, and you still don't let them in. That's why these trial relationships and all those things that I was talking to you about in the last one are key to rebuilding the trust. I need some nurturing. I want the divine feminine. If you're in your masculine all the time, do you nurture me? Probably not at all. It's like, I hate little boys. They're always like this. Well, I still got a little boy inside me, even though I've done my work. And that little boy wants some nurturing. A lot of us have mommy and daddy wounds. You have some daddy wounds too. You want some nurturing from the masculine sometimes. We all have it. So don't just say somebody that has it is broken and overly wounded, because the magic is in that exploration, going in and saying, I'm going to try you out, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to go to depth, and I'm going to let you be trusted so I can find myself, so I can find my balance back to my you're to your feminine, me to my masculine. And it's going to be like, fuck, I never want to leave this again. And now you're going to be a shining example to all your girlfriends and guy friends from this point onwards where you fit. Because if you're 60 or 80% in your feminine, it's going to be so easy to interact with you, because you're just going to be all flowy, and I'm going to engage, and I'll be more dominant if that's what you want. And that'll make you feel naturally safer, because that's the way the gender roles work. Is you have this massive masculine man that can fight off the polar bear or the whatever, because women are naturally built smaller, and they're more for childbearing and gatherers and this kind of stuff. They're not the hunters. So we're now living out our epigenetic proper roles, rather than I'm a mixed martial arts fighter woman, muscles like this, completely in their masculine. That's how some women, I can perceive them. They've had to go and fight right to the top, and their ex and their job and their blah, 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 blah. And they got to stand there, but they're so exhausted, they're ready to die. And they're so sad.
Yeah.
I'm ready right here to be those other roles for you, because I'm tired of being feminine, and I'm tired of being soft and emotional and all this kind of stuff. I want to stand there and be a rock for a while.
Yeah. I think growing up for me, I always was in my masculine because I didn't have a role model for a proper feminine. And so I always clung to my masculine, and I always looked down on the feminine. I shut it down a long time ago. So it took me so much time to catch up to it, to the feminine side of things. It's so much better here. No, it's good to be balanced. It's good to be balanced. But like for the longest time, I just always saw the feminine as very weak and unintelligent. And that
Yeah,
was just something I learned from my mother as my perception of that.
but that partly was cultural.
Yes.
Women must stay in the home. Women must have the babies and feed the husband and all that kind of stuff, which was subservient.
Yeah. But yeah, just like, like whatever your mom template is, that is like your beliefs of the feminine, divine feminine or whatever. So just
And
having
you
all
saw it
that.
in every interaction with your mom and dad. And if he always won or she shrieked and yelled and was really emotional, it looked crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't identify with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I'm gonna be here in the masculine side. This seems a lot safer.
Was a good masculine role model?
Hmm.
Did you have a good masculine role model? Was your dad kind of had the job and he was strong, but did you learn the nuances of being a man? What integrity was, what all those things were?
It just seemed better. I think I wanted to be a boy. I was a tomboy growing up. Like I was like, you know what, this feminine shit is too complicated for me. I'm just gonna play soccer.
And that's sports and that's competition and all those kind of things, physical, right? Instead
Yeah.
of emotional and airy and dance or ballerina or whatever, right?
Yeah. I want to ask you, where do you see this whole thing, these gender roles headed towards?
I'd say it's collapsing already. I'd say if this continued the way it is within a generation, people wouldn't be having sex and we'd be losing population more and more often because it's just far easier to do it electronically or watch porn or care rather than it is to try and create a circumstance with another person, right?
Yeah.
It's imploding. There's a lot of control on the feminine side, and we have to kind of work women through their shame. That's why starting with sexuality as part of the awakening is so important, because if we wait until the very end to fix all that kind of stuff, you've lost all the pleasure as part of your healing. You've lost all the fun and play and the innocence. And where it started and where it all broke was when your sexuality was taken from you from the minute you were born. For little boys, it was a circumcision, which was hurting your sexual organ from like 2 days after birth. Um, for girls, yeah, forcing them into dress, gender roles, making them be sexual at a really young age has distorted them, and it's had equal effects on the men. Like young men, these 12 and 14-year-old girls have like full-size breasts now, and they're walking around. I don't know if it's the hormones or whatever, and they're dressing with eye makeup, trying to be sexy and plunging tops and all this kind of stuff. And there's no teaching of sexuality and what it means or any of the energetic connection of sexuality. So it's just this friction based thing you get out of the way. I hear 12 and 14-year-olds are having sex before they have their first kiss now because they don't want to be a virgin anymore, because that's a badly looked upon thing.
It freaks me out with that idea that there are 12 to 14-year-olds with plunging necklines and raging hormones to this degree, and it's over hypersexualized. That kind of freaks me out.
Go walk by a high school any day of the week
Uh,
and see these teenage girls. That's probably grade 7 all the way up to grade 12, and they are wearing the tightest jeans and yoga pants and all this kind of stuff, the latest clothes, plunging tops, half naked. I don't know how the teachers and stuff handle it all, but it's all because of TV and programming, and all their role models are
Social
doing
media.
that. Yep.
I struggled so much to be in that kind of sphere because I was always this skinny mini little thing, and I didn't connect to my sexual organs at all. So I was always holding on to this innocence, this childhood of me. I didn't want to let it go. And so I was on that wave, and then it was really hard for me when I saw, girls my age, but they were more developed and they were more just naturally unfolding in their sexuality. And I was always envious of that. And I shut mine down.
But were they prostituting themselves in a way to try and get that sexual feedback? Once they get that sexual surge and they felt it a bunch of times, or somebody's desiring or whatever, it's like a drug.
Yeah.
It's feeding them, and then they got to keep all in even deeper. Now it's like, oh, okay, well, I got to get a boob job or whatever because I'm small or whatever, because what's appreciated as being sexual is all this body shit, which has nothing to do with it. That body stuff will fade away or sag or whatever, when your sexual is really a vulnerability and an intimacy of who you are and how you open. Instead, now sexuality is like, I put this wall up so that I don't have to feel it, or I don't know how even sexual pleasure would work with a 12 or 14-year-old girl having her first sexual experience behind the dumpsters at school or whatever, because they have no place to go and not home or whatever. I hear about it all the time. It's like in Canada, it happens. It's crazy. So now that sexuality is just about putting it off and getting it done. How is their husband or sexual partners later in their life going to interact with them? Because now this programming is set in that it's just this quickie behind the dumpster, and it's not about touch or sensuality or anything. It's just take your pants down and I'm just going to get in there. And did she even have any pleasure? No. More than likely, the little boy got off quick, and then she's getting pregnant at 12 or 14 or whatever. And is it likely they're even using a condom? It's just so perverted. So that's why it's so important to educate, get it back to this level, and start talking about it. And it's not going to be the parents teaching this, because they're the ones that are the most shamed. We need to have people that are in their spirituality and they're starting to understand what energetic sexuality is and these kind of things. And don't talk about all the STDs and all this kind of stuff. I don't know how many people know this, but a condom is like putting a rubber glove on your energy of your lingam. And do you think your partner is going to feel the energy of you if you put a rubber glove on before you have sexuality? But you have to do that because you're going to get a sexually transmitted disease, or you're going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
But pregnancy is an energetic choice. Nobody talks about it, and I'm sure a lot of women may disagree. But why would you create a baby inside your body with absolutely no choice and make it a mistake? Because now I got to get an abortion because I wasn't careful and all this kind of stuff. Look at all the things around sex that are basically forcing us to be ashamed. We can't freely do it because we might get that partner pregnant and it's this bad thing. But I can refer you to women that will teach body understanding, and you make a choice before you have sexuality with that partner. If you leave it free to the universe, all the lessons will show up. Okay. I'm having sexuality for pleasure. It's not to create a child. And you program once you're in full control of your energy. Do you think if a child would show up for a lesson or other things? No. But the world has left it free and clear that, well, what, for 2,000 years it wasn't okay to have sex for anything other than procreation.
Yeah.
You had 14 kids and you literally had no time to have sex because you had to feed them, and it was like a 24-hour job to plant the fields and pay the bills. And so sexuality and all those components of it are completely different, right? And if you're just having a friction-based experience and it's not all about the pleasure and all the other ways, you don't have to have a ejaculate inside the person to have pleasure. That has nothing to do with it. There's so many other ways to have pleasure.
That's true.
It isn't intercourse that doesn't even have the side effect of getting pregnant.
Yeah.
So sex can be loving each other, hugging, sitting there. Well, we can get into all the different positions and how different ways can work, but used to be a contraceptive where the woman would just hold her legs together and the boy would go in between the legs, not in the yoni. And that was typical. But did the women get any pleasure out of that? Probably not, because they were all afraid that somebody was going to get pregnant.
Wow, I'm very fascinated by this intention setting where you're like, I'm in control. This is not for procreation. This is for pure pleasure and just commit programming your. That is fascinating to me.
How does it feel in your body? Does it feel possible?
Oh yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Yes,
Did you give that choice away? Where did you give your power away? Who decides?
that's crazy. Because they do talk about phantom pregnancies where you just get so paranoid that you just.
Your body can create anything. And it'll go to the point of creating a baby. The Virgin Mary created a baby without any intercourse.
Immaculate conception.
But it's an energetic process, and she was trained deeply in how to channel those energies, so it's possible.
Wow. Yo, I'm gonna practice that. Let me
Well,
tell you, the next time I'm gonna be like, no, no condom. It's all in the mind.
well, and in the past, it was always women get a hysterectomy or whatever so that they can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
You know how easy it is for a man to get a vasectomy?
And it's reversible.
It can be, yeah, but it's like a 45-minute job, and they just cut a little part of the tube that
Vas deferens or something.
Yes, exactly. And then all there is a little tiny cut. I've had one. It makes my life so much simpler with all that kind of stuff because that's a man's choice. And it's like, well, I was in my mid 40s. Am I really going to want to have more children? And if the universe wants it, they'll glue it all back together because it supposedly happens. There's a 2% chance or whatever. And they take this much of the tube out. So I don't know how it grows back together. It's not like they just put a clip and the clip fell off. So, but that's, the man would say, oh, that's scary and that's bad. Do you know how much they got to take out of a woman to make her not be able to have a baby?
It's pain.
Like wombs and cervixes and ovaries and all these bits. And it's like a 3 to 6 months recovery period.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why would your body have a thing in it that was completely out of your control? But nobody understands the energetics of it. These things are all going to come back, and women are going to get trained in it from the minute they're old enough to have sexuality, so that you don't get unplanned pregnancies. How many people's lives have been destroyed, or how many babies have been killed because people don't think that they have a choice?
Yeah, you're right.
But if they're doing it out of shame, and they're doing it out of guilt, or they're just doing quickies or any of that kind of stuff, and there's no intention in it, shame's going to propagate a whole bunch of crap in your life that you don't want. So let's get sexuality back above board and understood, and everybody's making clear decisions and say, hey, geez, I want to just play and have fun with you. And I don't want it to end up in a baby, and I don't want it to end up in we have to get married until we've really found out if that person meets our sexual needs and doesn't have trauma. And how better to understand a person than, oh, we can go date and understand who their grandmas were and how many grandchildren everybody had in the family or whatever. But does that really build any trust with that person? Does it build intimacy? It's just asking a whole bunch of stories, and then everybody gets bored because it's like 5 or 10 or 20 dates, whatever the number is, before you ever get to a deep intimacy.
Yeah.
Most dating in my world has not been about intimacy in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking like seeing their naked body. I'm talking about, this is who I am. This is the wounds that I had. This is the way my father treated me. This is the way my mother treated me. And that's going to tell you who the person is. But in an old way, we just hide all that shit. I'm damaged goods, and my mother raped me, or my dad did this or whatever. You never tell that person. You won't even get into marriage and get to the point where you'll tell that person. So you're just damaged goods all the way through. Why not go into a relationship that you have no
Shame.
wish? Well, or if you're really attracted to that person, is it likely you're going to tell all the vulnerable bits because they might be scared of you and think you're broken? So find somebody that you're just really comfortable with, a friend, like some of those guys on the side that some women have that they're kind of questioning it. Just go into that and have a relationship like you were talking about, where you're just going in for healing and learning about each other. And instead of calling it a one-night stand or a friend with benefit and putting all those shames and guilts and stuff on it, just say, I'm having a loving dive into my sexuality with this person that wants the same thing.
Yeah.
Way different energy there.
Yes.
And I think as soon as COVID is over, is going to be the perfect time for people to start implementing this, because they're going to be so longing for intimacy, for touch, for sexuality, to feel safe that you're not going to give somebody a disease. Maybe the next show will do that. I'll build some stuff over the weekend, but a relationship contract. Here's what we're going in before we commit. Do you like sexuality? Are you scared of intimacy?
Are you emotionally available?
Exactly. What's your relationship with your dad? What's your relationship with your mom? Do you have somebody else that you're a partner with at this time? Just simple questions like that are assumed, but now are right on the table. Both sides have to say it, and you won't go in unless they give you a clear answer. And if you lie, nobody wins because you're not being emotionally available.
What if, okay, let's say you find someone, and what if they don't have a good relationship with their mother, for instance, or their father?
Who are you going to talk to about that? Probably no one. So choose that person right there and now. I'm going to let you know everything about me, my body, my wrinkles are, where my weird perks are, and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to find out that truth goes into all facets of their being, how they respond sexually, how they deal with trauma or change or anger. And I can guarantee you, we could probably, I could do it right now. I could do a course on triggers and negotiating that relationship, and it would be like an hour and a half, 2 hours for each one of them. And you'd go in so prepared to be in a sexually healing relationship with that person just by having that. Because if you can deal with your triggers, okay, your emotionally unavailable mother has created all this anger in you. So when you get poked on stuff that your mother might do, you're going to come out with a rage on. But if you told him, guess what? He can say, okay, how much of this belongs to your mother and how much belongs to me? It's like, shit, it's my mom. Can I talk about it? Because the only way it's going to get out is to talk about it. And I'm going to tell you right now, the most pleasurable way to get through something like that is to talk about it and then have things like rage sex or all this intimate, amazing energy plowed into a connection with another person so it can all be gone. And all your mother shit is just flowed out in massive, screaming, loving orgasm.
Yes.
Do you want to go sit with a therapist for the next 9 years of your life and cry and let little bits out? Or do you want to be really emotionally available with a partner that's going to sit there, and you've got a 3-month guarantee that this person is going to sit there through it with you, and you're just going to come unglued, but in the holding arms of your partner, or at least saying, I'm not feeling this thing and I really got to cry and I really got to scream. Can you hold me? Would that be a hell of a lot more fun than laying in your bed all curled up for a ball all by yourself?
Oh my God, it would be so much better. I can hear myself echoing, but it would be so much better because then you wouldn't even be judging yourself like, oh my God, this person thinks I'm like less than or whatever. You're adding your own projections to that weakness. And so that's just like a double whammy, but it would be so much more amazing where you're just completely like, this is what's happening. I just need you to hold me.
Where is the space that you can be that emotionally open? That's what living your light is about. It's about going to a space where you can sit around with other people and talk about these things, and they're going to hold you in accountability and in self-responsibility and ask you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you're going to create connection with people in that community, and that's going to be a person that you're going to have one of these relationships potentially with. Like how many have been in church groups and other things, and they get really attracted to somebody, and you know what their morals are and the way they look at the world because they're part of this community.
Yes, that is true. Yes. I am, there's such an increase of more dating apps coming online, like just different ones. But yeah, I think they've seen like a 400% rise with this current pandemic isolation thing happening. And I'm very fascinated in that world.
And how much online dating have you done?
I did. I'm cool on online dating, but I did do it in the start of the pandemic, and that was how I had found my former partner. But it was just fascinating to be part of that experience.
But how much actual truth and vulnerability did you find in the people that were posting there?
I think I connected vulnerably to like one person, but for the most part, it was very like, these are my highlights. And if
Hmm.
I was me in present moment to go back, I would put it all out on the table. I would be like, these are my issues. I
Hmm.
what are yours? Don't message me unless like you know, putting like you said, those contracts. Like I would put all of that quote unquote damage shit like you know, in a digestible form, obviously, but like in the past, it would have been like a picture of me in Paris and this is what I like to do, you know, just like that blase. But it's all very much a front.
And what was the energetic level of most of the people you met on that app? Like from a spiritual awakenedness? It's
Oh
like
no,
they're in a
no, there was no one spiritually awakened on there. No, 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 no.
exactly.
That's why I had to walk away from my last partner.
I spent 6 years after my divorce
Yeah.
because I was in my 40s, and it's like, where do you go? You can't go to the bar. You can't. It's not the same.
Christian mingle.
Well, yeah. But how many people were photos from only here up, and it's like, oh, they're 10-year-old pictures and making it sound like they're whatever, and oh, don't say that they have kids. Or how many times did I go for a date and they sat in the parking lot and they ghosted me as soon as they saw me walk into the Starbucks or whatever? That happened to me 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
And all of a sudden you can't reach them. You've just driven halfway across the city or whatever, and you got no feedback of why, or other than, oh, it's really easy to do this and I can hide. And it happens and it wounds, and nobody takes responsibility for their actions anymore, right? That's where integrity for me as a man, it's like if I say I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, I will be there.
Yeah.
I might be 5 minutes late and I'll phone you or something to say it if it's anything more than that. But there's none of that in any of those apps because it's like run away, and I can be emotionally unavailable as I want. And
And you're
it's like,
still safe. You're still safe behind your screen because it's just a screen and you can just go to the next person, to the next conversation. Like you have 50 conversations.
and the first date is that exact same thing. I can be whatever the hell I project, and then laugh at all your jokes, and then I don't want to talk to you anymore. Why? It's like, well, the last thing we said is you walked away was I'll talk to you tomorrow, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh well, I thought about it and I don't wanna. It's like, what a fucking waste. And
Yeah.
then you get into dating and it's like 15 dates before there's any level of intimacy or sexuality.
Yeah.
And I don't have a choice in that. And it's like, if I ask about it, I'm way too forward or direct. Where if you do it this other way, it's like, oh, you're filling out the questionnaire. And it's like, sexuality is important to me. And it's something that I want to explore earlier rather than later. What are your thoughts on it? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. That's not bad. That's putting it on the table and saying what my expectations are. And then you can't be wounded and shame me because I was too forward. Well, most women want the same thing, but they won't talk about it, or it's like they're a slut or they're too easy or whatever. And it's none of that. It's like they need pleasure as much as we do. And they're longing for it and they're hiding it far more than men are, but we're being more direct. But it's hard to find that bridge place where you can trust enough that you can say, I'm really horny right now, or I'm really want this, without getting judged by your mother picture in the back of your mind or your friends and how they perceive you, or whatever. That's a lot of the story that's going for the woman, I find.
Yeah. I remember being on there and there were some attractive guys on there.
Mm-hmm.
And and they would they would just cut to the chase. They'll be like, "Oh, you want to come over?" And then I'll be like, "No," because but it was good to hear that because it's like I know what I'm looking for and it's not that, but it's cool to like have that.
How would you have a negotiation to say, here's how I want it to work? It's like, yeah, I'm attracted to you, but let's go out on a date and I just want to feel your vibe and all this kind of stuff. And by the third date, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
That would be perfectly okay with me,
Yeah.
because then it would be like, okay, yeah, we're creating a meal and we're not forcing anything. We have no expectations for the first couple. But by the third, it's like, okay, we're going to have that conversation now. How did that
Yeah.
feel?
Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
do you know I'm enough and it's not creepy and it's not weird and whatever, right?
Yeah, I did find, and I've read this on a few Reddit threads where there's women on these dating apps that will get hit on by these very attractive men that are, you know, obviously physically more attractive than them, but it gives them a false sense of delusion because they think that they could keep these men as partners, but rather it's just a quick one interaction of hookup.
Women that aren't confident about themselves are apparently an easy win for these men that just are serial sexualists or whatever you want to call
Serial
it. They,
swipers. We'll call them swipers.
yeah, they'll come and have sex with you once, maybe twice or whatever, and they got the notch on the belt,
Yeah.
but it didn't fulfill them. Both people are sad. The woman's now hurt because she had sex on the first date and the guy never came back. Look at the whole societal thing, just fucked everybody out of ever having those experiences again.
Yeah.
But how cool are you, and what wound does the man have to want to do that? And he's made his outward appearance to be sexual and all this kind of stuff, so he's pulling the women in, where if he just like came in and said, okay, if we're going to have sexuality or whatever, it's a really big step, but the minimum is we'll go there, but we got to have a 3-month relationship within this container that we're going to agree to, or have some minimum requirement of what that would be rather than an expectation. Because the expectation is never said. It's like, okay,
nope,
I want you to phone me tomorrow and tell me that I was a good lover or not a good lover, so I can at least know why you ghosted me.
Yep.
Or I'm really ashamed and I'm scared of what happens, and I'm scared that you're going to want me to put a ring on your finger now and move in with you. Because that's what the next step is after first sexuality in unstated expectation.
Yes, Christian values.
Well, and I'm not honoring you because I took advantage of your temple or whatever. Men have emotions too after sex, and wounds come up and past lover shit comes up, and they don't have an opportunity to share that with you because there is no emotional intimacy. And they're just in the exact same place as you, but you've judged it that they've now chosen that you weren't good enough or whatever. No, what if you could hold them through that and say, holy shit, that was really emotional, and it's the first time in 2 years, and I'm ashamed because I came really fast or whatever, and now you think that I'm bad and I didn't give you an orgasm or whatever. Look at all the friggin' shit that's going on in the background that wasn't really part of it. And if you didn't have that integrity, have that discussion afterwards and say, oh, give me a chance next time, or give me 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever, I'm going to have some more stamina and lay here. And I'm going to hug you and I'm going to cuddle you, or I'm going to do oral sex for you or whatever. None of that comes with a short like thing where you're a little ashamed about it and guilty, when it's like, okay, I really want to get to know your body. Give me a guided tour of your body. What feels good? Like, I could design a whole set of exercises that would get people grounded and then start to interact with the other person's body. And it's like, I can guarantee it's going to take 6, 10, 12 sexual sessions before I'm going to understand your body and understand that you just get wild when I lick behind your knee or your middle of your back or whatever. And that sensation, it just tingles. And all of a sudden, because you don't get to that exploration, because it's not about sensuality. It's not about exploration. It's about getting to an orgasm.
How important is it for you to learn about your potential partner's last relationship, why it failed, or any of those details? Is that important at all in this newfound way, or is it just focus on the present?
So what's the likelihood if they just spalled all their stuff out without a shared vulnerability, that you just pawn them off right there because there might be a judgment, or it might align with some of your own vulnerability? Where if you can have that questionnaire, it would never ask about leave your last partner or whatever, because there's a million different wounds. There's the other partner could have wounds too. And if you start putting yourself in their shoes, you're just going to replay that same energy, and you don't want any part of it. You just want to go in and say, we're going to be really vulnerable about a lot of stuff. And that's a turn on too. If people don't understand that, it's a massive turn on to have somebody be really vulnerable in front of you and say, I don't know, what can be vulnerable? It's like, I feel my lingam is too small. The last girlfriend said that give me more hose or whatever. And I'm really afraid that the first time you see me naked, you're going to say the same thing. And that's going to hurt the hell out of me.
Yeah. Oh, that's, yeah.
If you could have that discussion, or it's like your labia are really large and they're flappy or whatever, and they get involved during sex. Is that bad to say that up front? Oh, I've got this enigma thing going on in my head about that part of my body, and I really want the lights off, and I don't want you to give me oral sex or something.
Because at least you know.
But if you lead with it and say, holy shit, I'm really uncomfortable down there, can we make it really worshipful and whatever, and I'd love you to explore my body and get down there and kiss it for me or whatever. It's like, okay, well, I'll kiss it, but let's have a shower first, because the last couple of girlfriends I had, didn't wash before, and it was kind of made me gag or whatever.
Yeah.
We all traumas because we weren't truthful about it.
And then we don't talk about it, and then it just makes us feel worse, and we create another story that has nothing to do with the situation. It's like, oh, thank you for letting me know. So now I know that it's nothing to do with me, and I can help circumvent this thing. I could be proactive.
And it's going to be amazing. Can you have a woman say that lingam is far big enough for me, and I don't need anything bigger than that, and that looks and I love how your labia are and the feeling on my tongue or something like that, and get that affirmation and that worship in. You're going to be empowered, and then you're going to be able to say, if another lover says it, you're going to now be able to say, okay, is that their trauma speaking, trying to push me away, or is that something I'm feeling is truth? And you're going to say, somebody said it wasn't true, and I've had that experience from a vulnerability. So from now on, your confidence is going to be 9,000% higher.
Yeah.
Not just by sharing with another person that's really open. How many men really know what all shapes and sizes of the woman's body and vaginas come in, or lingams, and they're just going by what they glanced over in the shower room on guys. And there's some beautiful courses that people can go to where you present your genitals and you talk about them and you learn of all the different shapes and sizes and how they work differently and where it feels pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of taking a course that had to teach us that, what if we bound ourselves for 3 months to an exploration with another person? Or you went on a guided workshop where twice a week I'd sit and I'd say, okay, you're going to explore the vulva, or you're going to explore the nipples today, or you're going to explore the perineum or something. And that's all you focus with that for 3 hours with your partner, touching those things. How does that feel? How is this? And communicating, because how often did you ever get any feedback from your partner that felt good? That is the gift that everybody's waiting for. And once they're adults and they're out of their teens and they're out of this kind of, I just got to screw everything that walks.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden it's like, I want to learn about myself. I want to learn how it feels in a woman's body to, instead of just being all about pounding penetration, what happens when I penetrate and I just stay there?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be hugely powerful. And there's all this energy and stuff going on, and women love it. What happens when I'm really slow? What happens when I'm really fast? What happens when her body is like the woman can get erect as well. The clitoris can get big and open, her body, but most women don't open because they haven't been aroused enough to get to that. How can a man have sex if his lingam doesn't get engorged with blood? So can a woman really have sex if her most sensitive part isn't engorged yet?
Yeah.
How do you get it engorged? How does it look when it's engorged? Who do you learn this from than with a partner? Does this feel good? Does that feel good? Does this feel good? And then you're just sitting there playing. But how many people see sexuality as that, as a play and a build-up? I'm sure there's some couples that have found that and they're really happy with it. But I will conjecture most of them never had any of that. It was just like, get under the covers, insert, and be done.
Very automized.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a word? It just the same standard procedure. You might tweak it a little bit depending on your partner, but very like, okay, this is what I usually do. I'm just gonna blah, 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 blah. That's it.
Where does that come from? Is that even taught? The school doesn't teach it. It's like, here to put a condom on. Here's how this STDs can happen. It doesn't talk anything about how to have sex, how to pleasure, how to any of that kind of stuff. So they watch it on TV or they see some porn or whatever, and it's all just
Or through friends.
permission. Let's just the woman just takes her clothes off and you insert.
Yep.
And what? So to get back to this worshipful space, to make sex sacred and have people start talking about what they want. It's like, can you imagine a workshop with people that are kind of empowered, but you just meet with a bunch of people that you haven't met before, but they're part of a community and they're trained to a similar level, and you just negotiate. It's like, I would really like you to touch me like this. And it's in a held space with a whole bunch of other people, so you don't have to worry because it might be a person you don't know, and just say, negotiate it to this level. And then it's like, okay, I want to progress it from this level. And how do we keep in balance? And because it's all discussed before you even start. It's like, okay, I'd really like you to just pinch my nipples or French kiss me or whatever, or give me a massage or whatever. And now all of a sudden you're exploring that intimacy, and then energy is going to show up. And then you can say in your consent, say, hey, I'm getting aroused. Could we take our clothing off or something like that? You don't even do that in a date, because the date basically says it just escalates. It's like, okay, I touch you here, then that's first base, and then, okay, take the shirt off, your second base, and then third base. And it just kind of piles up and gets there where there was really no conversation. It's like, I'm on my period right now or whatever. And meanwhile, the girl's saying no because she thinks he'll think it's ugly or dirty. But it's like, if he just said that, it's like, I'm really feeling it. We're going to have to just stick to touching tonight because I got 3 more days where it's a little messy. Mm-hmm. Wow. All of a sudden the guy's like, oh, okay, I'll honor you and all this kind of stuff. But if it's like hard no, it's like, oh, she doesn't like me or she's not interested or whatever. The mixed energies, everybody's lost. Mm-hmm. So we just get to a place where there's nothing shameful about it, and that our sexual energy comes up and we're going to be attracted to people, and you don't have to go with it. But if it's more conscious in our communication, it's much more likely something's going to happen that's honoring and respectful to both.
I feel like if I, in my current presence, was to go online on a dating app where there's a lot of sleepy people, I think it would stir up a lot for people.
You would probably be very attractive to people because your directness.
I'm almost tempted to do this as an exercise, but I don't want to repeat the same thing as last year, so I want to hold off on it. But I'm so tempted to just like rock the boat and just like blow people's minds.
Well, by the end of my dating experiences, I was starting to be very expressive about, I came from a sexless marriage and sexuality is important to me. Is it something that's important to you? And a lot of them would be just like tilt. They didn't know what was going on. And it's like, you're being a little too direct, aren't you? And all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, this is what I want. Why would I not tell you what I want? And you have the full choice to be able to say no or not, whatever. But they couldn't even comprehend what was being possible there. And some would then go into their own shame or their own wound or whatever. And it's like, you can't be this direct, or the last time somebody was like that, it led to something or whatever.
Yeah.
So I far prefer to be in a conscious community where people are trained and have awareness of what their triggers are and the fact that shit's going to show up. And because somebody that's in their full expression of terror from their rape or something like that is very, very unsafe unless they went through that experience and they can control themselves. And then you can remind them of, okay, you're in a triggered state. Take a breath. Sit back. Your training says, how do you ground? Go ground for a second. Go walk in the other room. We're not going to have this discussion until you're grounded. And then all of a sudden she comes back and it's like, okay, I'm feeling my father. and he did this or whatever. And now a vulnerable conversation happens. And it's like, hey, would you like to proceed from where we left off? Now we worked through some of that trauma. And more than likely, they're going to say, yes, I'd love to.
So
because
beautiful.
I felt it and I got scared. So be scared, express it, because I don't want to be on the receiving end of scared. I want to be on the receiving end of I'm in my power and this feels good. And I'm now following what feels good and trusting my body. And it's like, okay, it's getting aroused or it's feeling closed off. And then I can work from a space of safety to proceed. And it's like, okay, I'm going to give you a back massage because you're feeling afraid and you're feeling uncomfortable or whatever. I'm going to give you a back massage. We'll loosen all that kind of stuff. I want you to breathe and we'll talk about it again. Are you feeling scared now? No, I feel safe with you.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful.
I will tell you, a man that gets a little bit of training is more than ready to do all this kind of stuff. A man that's fully in his masculine, he's looking for any way to engage, but he's reached out so many times and got told he was bad or that's shameful or too direct or whatever. He doesn't know how to engage anymore. And it's not the woman's fault. It's the societal programming. But to have these discussions with you and share it and say, there's a better place, but you have to engage. You have to give me acknowledgement that you want that. To have a woman approach me and say, I'm attracted to you, but you scare the hell out of me, is a huge starting place. Because now I know the attraction is there and then there's something there. And I will hold space for that all day long to understand why I'm triggering you. Because I don't have shames in the same places that those other people have. So my light shines in. And that can be triggering, but it's also healing because it's bringing up the ability to talk about it. But now you have a person that can sit there with you and has been through the same thing or the male version of it. And magic starts to happen. That's what a healer does or a divine partner does. But we're so wounded, we can't even get to the point of drawing in our divine partner because we're terrified.
Yep. And then we just keep on repeating the same cycle or it's the same energy. It could be a different face, but it's just the same energy, the same play, the same act.
So what if you found, let's call it a trial partner that you went together for 3 months on and you had enough attraction that you felt them sexual and all this kind of stuff. And then you went into this full engagement, maybe with some support from the community by courses or workshops, and you explored everything. It's like, fuck, he triggered me. You're on the support call the next day, last night, and it was oral sex or something. And it's like, oh, that took me back to my trauma. My dad did that to me when I was a child, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I don't know how to talk to him because it feels icky. Supported the community. It's like, okay, your wound is real and normal, and it's okay to feel that way. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, even just permission that it's okay to be that way. And then maybe he can hold space for you now that it's out. Now all of a sudden that discussion can happen because he felt it was all weird and he was only doing the best he could to create pleasure. And got shamed because you had a wound and it wasn't undisclosed. So create those trial relationships, work through all your shit very rapidly, and then go for the gusto on partners that meet you at these levels and you've done all your work. And you heal both. And it's the whole process of sexuality and relationship is about becoming your best self and choosing the first one and committing for the rest of your life. Do you think that was designed to help us work through our shit, or was it designed to trap us? It's a control mechanism. Pick one for the rest of your life when you're 18 or whatever that you got to be with for the rest of your life. You haven't even worked through a tenth of your traumas and your sexual traumas and all that kind of shit. Look at relationship and sexuality as a means to heal and rapidly heal when you put it in the right container. You will be a completely different person in 1 or 2 relationships instead of 6 or 8 and still reliving all the old same shit. I hope people can see the truth of it because it sounds like, oh, just a bunch of people sleeping around. No, it's very different. When triggers come up, you got to stand there and deal with them and share and hold space and learn the tools to be able to not get your head blown off from the anger or the ferocity and just say, hey, you're not in integrity right now. Go in the other room and breathe and
Yeah.
talk in 10 minutes. And it's going to be a completely different situation than I'm completely triggered about this thing.
Yeah, and like no one's talking about it, so then there's this energy of uncomfortability lingering, and it just freezes you, it freezes them, and then like the paralysis persists, blah blah blah.
What if we're just changing the rules? The rules and the new principles are self-responsibility, accountability, and vulnerability. You agree to do that in everything in your life, everything that's going to come up, you got an accountability. Now you splashed on me. You got an accountability to come back and talk vulnerably about what showed up.
Well, yeah.
And I'm going to hold space and listen to that because I want you to hold space for me when my stuff splashes out, and we talk about that too.
Yep.
Where do you go? Do you go to the healing center and share a sexual experience with someone and just break this all out? Or do you spend 3 months with someone going through all the stuff you would normally go through and make it this hugely expansive exploration of self and your darkness and all this shit so that it's all out and healed? You can't do that one-on-one with everybody, but if you get people partnered up and give them the tools, they will transform themselves. And they may not be partners because I wouldn't call it like a throwaway relationship, but they only came together for that purpose. It was like a soul contract for that period of time. You're going to love that person for the rest of your life because you shared a deep, intimate experience with them, but that may not be your soul partner you're going to choose off the start because you choose that for healing rather than for long-term relationships.
And it could potentially, who knows?
Well, too. Because you're going to get so deep with that person, but you're going to know yourself by the end of it, and you're going to know what you more want. And how are you going to know if what you want if you don't go through a variety of what you don't want to find what you do want? And those trial relationships are going to probably show a whole bunch of what you don't want, which is okay. But we're doing it anyways. We're having 3, 4, 5 relationships, dating all through college, university, and then marrying someone and then marrying 3 other people over the course of our life. Just to prove what we don't want, but it literally jades us and we've so hardened, we don't even talk about what's going on.
Yep.
So that is the most healing things, to build a space where people are comfortable enough to come together and have a community that can support them as they go through all the shit that shows up. I would go to war with any single one of those people after they've been through all that and lived through projections and mirrors in relationships and healed a lot of their traumas. Those are the people that are really fundamental, strong. I've been through my stuff. But where do you go for it now? There is no community like that. There's no church. There's no therapist. You got to find your dream lover. So I'm building that space. We're building that in Living Your Light by having these discussions. And it's not scary when we start talking about sexuality, and I can say I can move you through from wherever you are to like fully enlightened in like 6 months by working really deeply at all these levels, and it's going to be really strong, but you're going to have a supportive place. Instead, it could take you 6 years. Would you not want to be part of that community and find those same people? Not everybody's going to want to take that path. They may need 20 years to work through all this kind of stuff, but the people that are really, really soul on fire and really want to be on track of service are going to want this.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful when we start understanding it. There's a few, Diane Richards is saying, great idea, come together. Yes, the soul contract. Hi all, hi. But I used to have this shame underneath all this kind of stuff because some women would judge it or whatever, but there's no shame in it anymore. How are you going to figure yourself out without somebody that can hold you in integrity? And that's not your girlfriend, that's not your dad, that's not your sister, that's not your brother, that's your fucking lover. And they're going to sit there on top of you having an orgasm or whatever and staring you straight in the eyes, and you're going to be bawling your eyes out because you're releasing your trauma of your rape or your whatever.
Lowercase or capital T trauma.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're building that container. The concepts we're talking about here get people comfortable with making that choice. And then you build a supportive space. There's a little bit of structure, like I said, like for next meeting or next thing we have, I'll build up like, okay, here's what a relationship contract is. Here's how you're going to have to hold the person. these are all part of the community. I got to build them anyway. So I'll spend the weekend and I'll share that with the group. And then it'll be a course. And it'll be like, okay, I found somebody that I want to do this with. And it's going to resonate with them so deeply because they know that they want to get through this. And this is the process that was brought to bear to be able to do that. It even excites you. You've said a few times, it's like, this is really cool, right? So
it's
I want the same thing.
Yeah. Like,
I don't know where it's fucked up yet. Keep going.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, just like, you do things this old way, and there was no role model or template for this old way. It was just going by assumption or things you saw in the movies or your siblings or your friends, but like, there was never this thing, which makes so much more sense.
It was all expectation and obligation. And how much did you actually learn from your failed marriages or relationships? How much did you learn other than a big wound?
And that wound keeps perpetuated because you don't learn, and you're like, fuck, like, let me just throw everything away because obviously I'm not capable to do this thing, so I'm just going to close myself off from this entirely.
And you throw every positive experience that you've ever had with that person and all that intimacy and everything out the window and burn his clothes and burn whatever because you're so hurt because you didn't own any of your part in it.
Yep.
All them. I'm a victim. It hurt. And no. Yep. What if you got held in no victim? So here's a mechanism where we can teach people to learn. And by the way, they're going to learn about their sexuality. They're going to learn about their body. They're going to learn about pleasure. They're going to learn about energetic sex and connection and all these things that are going to move all those negative things into positives. If you're having really good sex, do you think you're going to be able to work through a whole bunch of trauma really quick because you're positive and you're staying out of fear and you're using the pleasure to move the energy? Huge. I'm all about getting people away from struggle, and the most struggle most people are going to ever have in their life is their relationship.
Yes.
And lack of sexuality and lack of all those kind of things, because the relationship is programmed to build your love out of taking love from someone else and giving all your love to someone else. And you never find yourself as a whole and rounded person because you're chasing all the time.
All the fucking time. You're always chasing, and it's not even just like that one, romantic partner relationship. It's like you're chasing this thing with your career and your boss relationship. You're chasing this other thing with, like, I don't know, a community in that relationship, or your friends in that relation. Like, you're being changed. Oh my God. Yeah. That's like the biggest thing I've learned, is to just stop fucking chasing.
And do you ever know where you stand with any of them? And how much does your story fuck you? Like, or unfuck you, whatever you want to call it, it's bad. Because the person not communicating to you why they don't like you or why they're not having sex with you today or what's going on, you build a story in your head and it's not even anywhere near the truth.
It's not true, yeah.
Your girlfriend's on her period today and she's feeling really ashamed about it and she won't have sex for 3 to 5 days. And you're like, what the hell? It was like every day. All you had to say is, I'm on my period. Oh, okay, great. That would be awesome. But communication, vulnerability, self-responsibility, accountability, if we get people trained in all that kind of stuff, there's nothing you can't get through. And if you can't get through it, there's something deeper that you're not being truthful about. Because all your anger, all your pain, all your suffering comes from some judgment or past thing that you're not even dealing with. And who are you going to deal with it with? Your therapist or this partner that you're allowing to touch your body and explore it? And that's the only person. So kind of cool. Oh, we're way over, but kind of cool where it went really deep. And this is a community like no other. It's not about sexuality. It's about building a space where everybody can talk about all these matters. And then there's a sub level if people want to go deeper. It's not like be scared because it's all going to be about sexuality. No, it's about learning how to deal with your triggers, stand in those 3 principles and talk all the time about what's going on. And it has nothing to do with getting sexual with a person. It's intimacy, when you're talking to a person and you allow them to see your wound that's the rape or this thing, and you say, I was raped by my dad. Fuck, I was raped by my dad too. How does this feel for you? And how do you this? And how do you that? Can you imagine the people that'll come out of the closet? Or even if you're talking to a person that hasn't had that experience, that other person is going to learn about that experience and now be able to make better choices based on the emotions and the feelings that you shared.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing gained by not being vulnerable, but we're going to judge ourselves and say, oh, it's scary. If somebody knows that I'm wounded, they're going to use that to wound me even more. This community, this space will never allow that kind of shit. To hide something is only hurting you. Because I can tell you, I can speak about anything that I've ever done in my life, sexually, with my divorce, with all that kind of stuff, and I've learned from it. And there's not one shameful bit. I wish I could have done some things better if I was better educated, but it was perfectly imperfect. Because my ex learned some things and I learned some things, and it made us stay apart for longer and didn't talk or maybe hurt our kids, but it was stuff that was all needed for somebody to grow. Hurting my kids wasn't actually hurting my kids. It gave them an ability to self-source their own safety. Instead of it's like mom and dad are broken, now they are looking inside for that. And it's not about the love you get. You can get love from your dad and you get love from your mom, but you got to self-source first. And if you taught that through a divorce at a young age, holy shit, that's powerful. But there's a lot of self-blame and other things. So this community gets us just talking about simple things, and it's normal life to hear somebody talking about their rape or how their dad hurt them or mutilated them or whatever. And there's no shame in that. You're not broken. You're fucking more strong than you can possibly imagine because you lived with that and you're sitting with that wound inside you and you had no support to be able to discuss it or let it move.
Mm-hmm.
So this space allows it. With no shame, no judgment, no telling other people about it, because why would you need to? You're only doing it to say that they're less than you and you're better than them because you don't have that. No, that will not be permitted in a space like this because everybody's got a wound. Just wait until I find out what yours is. If you want to hurt me, that's the game that the old people ways used to do. There's no win in that. Everybody's equal. And by seeing your wound and seeing how you react and seeing what guides your energy and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to be that much more sensitive and understanding to what and how and why is Anya that way? Why is Paul that way? Why is he more secluded in this way and open in that way? Because, oh, there's the vulnerabilities and there's the mom and dad issues or whatever, and we all got them. So that's what living your life is. That's what awakening through sexuality is building a safe container where people can start engaging powerfully in their play and their healing parts of the sexuality, and getting at living your light as a safe container where people can be held in expression of all these things. And you don't have to do anything to do with sexuality, just start expressing them. But I will probably guarantee that almost everybody has some kind of sexual wound. And if we can't talk about that kind of stuff in an open space with other people that to understand that, then we shut ourselves off. And nobody wins when you shut ourselves off. I want to get that inner child out, not feeling ashamed, starting to talk, starting to play, having people in their space that they can feel safe with to play more. And that's a natural progression. There's no force. There's no, I have to do this or you have to do that to move through the process. No. You come in and you go up to the edge and it's like scary as hell. Okay. Next week you come up a little further, scary as hell. And when you have that safe container where there's a whole bunch of people that are doing the same thing, holy shit. You get to choose and everything's around consent and it's an expectation rather than a unstated one.
Mm-hmm.
You better say yes or else really we're not moving forward, because you better be all in or not all in, because nobody's safe when you're a maybe. So any closing remarks? We went pretty deep. I'm going to have to relabel this because this was a little more of sacred sexuality as an opening, as a healing. Yeah.
Really good. I don't know if I have any closing remarks. Just, I guess everything your soul has a plan. It knows what it's doing, and sometimes we want to jump off of that path because of curiosity, and it's tempting, but
But
just know
no.
that your soul already knows what it's doing, and you never have to chase anything. Like, it's
Mhm,
all there. You just have to close out whatever lesson it is and
mhm,
just go to the next one.
mhm.
Set that intention. I choose, I close this lesson out, whatever it is. I close it out.
And that can be a relationship. It's like, I'm ending this. I still love this person. And I close off all the energies that were with it because I learned from it.
Yeah.
Why carry it 40, 50 years and always compare it to that and see if that person is like that? Start fresh every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Let them surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, we're just understand we're spiritual beings, broadening possibility. We've been here over and over and over again. We're learning all these lessons, and we're here to explore everything: our wounds, our pleasure, finding what we want in our sexuality. How are we going to ever know unless we've tried some of these things? And different partners will bring different experiences and different pleasures and all this kind of stuff. We we get away with that through university and high school and our partners and stuff like that. But if you're under a religion, you maybe didn't do all that sexual exploring because it was like, I got to wait for my first marriage. And then you make somebody that's wounded. Sexuality and that exploration is just diving deeper into the energy of who we are. And if we don't get opportunities to explore that and follow what our body pulls are and what the sensations are in our body, we're just lying to ourselves and shutting ourselves down. And you know how mad your body is, and you know how mad all these parts of you are because your mind talks you out of it every single time. And nobody really won in that at all because there was a shared attraction, there was a shared feeling. And if it wasn't really discussed, nobody knows what could have been. And we lost. So let's build a space where we can talk about it and say, this is what I want. And I'm scared because this might, whatever, I might get an STD or whatever. And what if you could explore all that in a space where people are comfortable and confident and they're in integrity and they're not going to be sleeping with 15 different people or whatever, because now you're making a contract with them and you're saying, okay, my body's really important to me and let's do this, but under these kind of guidelines and be upfront.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wins then. I think women would feel a lot safer and men
Yes.
would know that they're not going to get called a rapist afterwards or get ghosted afterwards, because those are all wounds that really hurt from a man's perspective. And I'm sure women having penetration or whatever, and then the man not coming back or whatever, or not even talking about it, makes a whole bunch of body image questions and
Yup.
all these things.
Self-esteem, all
Don't
that
enter into sexuality without some level of agreement. And trust me,
beforehand.
first sexuality is probably the mustiest, most emotional, most question mark, question mark, question mark. I'd say you need at least 3 before you're really starting to get into vibe and understanding. And I'm not forcing people to have sex. I'm just saying, judging yourself on the first one and that the other person run away. And as long as there is no rule that now you got on the escalator and you got to get married because you had sex once, it's going to change the whole thing. It's going to be about, okay, I'm here for my pleasure. I'm not here for hurting someone or just trying you out or whatever. It's like, no, if we're going to go this level, let's agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's how simple it has to be. And religion doesn't have to come into it in that, because religion, you're going to commit fully to somebody at some point along the line, but you're not going to be ashamed. You're not going to be whatever, that you're exploring yourself before you really make that hard decision. And those relationships will last the rest of your life because you know yourself and you're not filling yourself from love and you're not trying to get a orgasm or whatever just to please yourself. You're doing it because you really know that person and there's shining light and magic's happening because you can explore new things and try new things and not, oh, I want to try bondage now. I want to try kink. These are things that excite me because you're asking.
Ooh, I can't wait to go back out into the world.
Okay. So that's the space. So give us some comments. Oh, I see lots more. Diane, we got her thinking. Yes, a plan. Not sure what I'm doing. Thanks, y'all. I won't read it all, but yeah, people are resonating with it. So we'll go a little deeper dive on the next one. I'll build some stuff and I'll share stuff with people or whatever. And it's going to be building. So I'll share it with you, Anya, and then people, it's like, I'd like a question like this on it, or I don't know what everybody's needs are and what their really burning questions are. We build it as a community, and it's like within a year or whatever, all of a sudden it's this really comprehensive short checklist, and everybody feels really safe, and they sign this one-page thing to say, I'm going to go into a 3-month commitment. We're going to try this, and you're going to know how much sexuality the other person likes. You're going to know that that's going to happen fairly regularly or not, and there's going to be no surprises, because some people, that's what they need right now. They need to heal. The first week or whatever might just be just like crazy, having fun, getting all that out of your system, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's touch, let's feel, let's see this, let's go in the bath together, let's shower together, and the conversations are going to come up automatically because you've been that intimate and that deep. Somebody's crying in the middle of or whatever, it brings a conversation. Somebody can be held after. So many just precious moments that just come from going deep and agreeing to go deep. I like to be held after. If you feel sleepy or whatever, can you at least stay awake for 5 or 10 minutes so I can be held after? And I'm going to tell you right now, the man's not going to want to go to sleep if he's having this little friction-based 2-minute kind of boink, boink, boink. If he's in there for half an hour, 2 hours, bringing the energy up, he's going to want to ravage your body for the rest of the night because the energy will just keep building. That's the difference of a committed, deep relationship.
Oh,
I love your reaction.
Oh, so good.
So get that all out on the table. And what if the man, for the first 3 times, he's just going off quick because he's never really had that intimacy and stuff with the woman, and really doesn't feel safe, or he's always had to rush or whatever. He may need a little bit of support. It's like, hey, okay, let's take it slow. And guess what? If he gets off quick the first time, wait 20 minutes. He'll be back and ready, and it'll be a whole different experience. But if it was only once and you're done, then no wonder. So that man's not going to learn. The woman's he's going to have 20 minutes to give pleasure. Use it. Don't shame. Say, hey, what are you getting off so quick for? Or whatever. It's like, that's my turn. Cool. And if he's got lots of energy, guess what? Magic. These are all things that can be coached and talked about and stuff. You're glowing.
I know. I feel it. It's so heavy right now, the glow. It's wonderful.
So that's what we're bringing to the planet, and let's get talking about it. So thank you all for listening. It was an extra long one, 2 hours this time, but we covered a lot of really beautiful ground.
Yeah, we sure did.
And we'll talk more about using relationship as a healing modality and what a relationship contract would be. So cool. And it's not about polyamory and jumping in with a whole bunch of people. You got to find one person and be really, really deep with them. You can maybe explore that later, but do your healing with one first, because there's a whole bunch of different variables that come in when you have multiple people in your life, and shames and jealousies and guilts and insecurities. So cool. Well, I thank everyone. I think you gave your closing remark. Is that correct, or is anything else?
No, this was great.
We went. I go a little off topic sometimes. So.
Well, what is it? No, it's fine.
Cool. Well, keep watching on my Facebook page. We'll get this in Awakening Through Sexuality too, because there's a lot in there associated. And yeah, we'll see you on Monday, and we'll have a lot of cool content. And if you got people that are interested in this kind of stuff, copy them in, tell them the live's going to start. I can start making them events now that might be easier to pull people in.
Yeah. And
I'll put them as, it might have to go in one of the groups, because I don't think you can do an event under your personal page, but I'll figure it out.
Okay.
So it'll be at minimum under Living Your Light community. Some of this other stuff, it'll definitely spread into the Awakening Sexuality community, and there's a Sacred Sexuality Learning community as well. And you just got to get this information out, and everybody gets to make a choice. Surround yourself with people of like mind, and some really cool things in healing and really strong spaces are going to form. So that's my mission on life.
I love it.
I love it. Cool. Thank you all. Have a great day, and loving you all, and get some sex in there if you can. Thanks.
Bye.